you today. So, in terms of what we'll cover, and straight away the IT doesn't work as you'd expect. There we go. Yeah. So we'll do a quick overview of HS2 just to give us a bit of context. Obviously, HS2 is a massive beast, so we can't cover everything today. And me and Louis are going to focus on two of the stations which we work on, and then Shazma is going to talk about the high-speed rail systems. So in terms of HS2 overview, I'll show you a quick video just to give you an update of where we are overall.
Hi, my name's Hugh Edwards, Stations Director at HS2, and I'm thrilled to bring you the latest update on the delivery of HS2, Britain's new high-speed railway. HS2 lays the foundations for a 21st and 22nd century railway network, providing more tracks, more trains, more seats, more connections, and faster journeys to improve performance and reliability across the wider railway network. The HS2 scheme will transform the way we move between our major cities, with zero carbon journeys between Birmingham and London, and services then continuing onwards to Manchester, the North West and Scotland on the existing railway network. HS2 is at peak construction right now, employing over 31,000 people day in and day out, bringing together the best of British design and British engineering. Investment in our railways means two things: better journeys and economic growth. Firms from every nation and region of Britain are already helping to build HS2 today, with over 3,000 businesses having already won contracts. The delivery of HS2 is opening up multi-billion-pound development projects in areas surrounding our new stations in both London and the West Midlands. The investment HS2 has attracted to the West Midlands is projected to add an additional £10 billion to the local economy over the next 10 years, creating 41,000 additional homes and 30,000 new jobs. Regeneration in West London, meanwhile, at Old Oak Common, is set to provide 25,000 new homes and 60,000 jobs. As the catalyst for urban regeneration, improved local transport connections, increased housing provision, and of course new jobs, HS2 benefits local people, local businesses and the wider economy. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and stay tuned for more updates as we continue to deliver HS2.
Yeah, so just a quick recap there of where we are and what we're doing at the moment. And I think a couple of bits of the video doesn't pick up. I thought worth sharing, just reminding that it's 140 miles of track that we're going to be delivering as part of phase 1 of HS2. We've got 4 new stations being built at London Euston, Old Oak Common, Interchange in Birmingham Curzon Street, 2 new depots, and 32 miles of tunnel along the route. Two particular things that video doesn't pick up that I think sometimes get missed by the media in terms of what we're doing at HS2. And for me, that's upskilling the workforce in the UK. Hugh mentioned that we've got over 31,000 people now working on HS2 across the line of route. That is a massive workforce, and we don't necessarily have that full skill and capability in the UK. So we are upskilling people to take jobs within the industry. But for me, I think the big win is we've got over 1,500 apprentices now working on HS2, and for me, they're the future of our industry of construction. The fact that we're giving them that opportunity to learn on a project such as this, I think is great for them, and the fact that we're bringing those people on board, I think is going to be great for the UK. And then, whilst we're the biggest infrastructure project in the UK at the moment, we are actually the biggest green project as well. As part of what we're doing, we're creating 33 square kilometres more of new habitat across a route. That's a 30% increase. And so far, we've planted 900,000 trees and already created sort of 120 new habitats along the route. So we all know within the railway corridor is a haven for wildlife, and we're trying to make the best of that as we can along the route. But yeah, to delve into a bit more detail though, Old Oak Common, I'm a project manager at Old Oak Common. I'm responsible for what we call the conventional station and the shared accommodation building. In layman's terms, I often say, as soon as you walk in the front door and you turn right, everything on the right is sort of what I'm responsible for, which will sort of come clear as we go through the next slides. I've been there for 6+ years now, and enjoying my time at Old Oak Common working on this. So what was there when I joined 6 years ago? I joined 6 years ago, it was still a Great Western Railway depot, housing a number of the diesel fleet that the Great Western Main Line Railway still ran at that time. And there's also a Heathrow Express depot and sidings that were still there at the time. So that was 6 years ago when I started. And then when we finish this project in the future, what we will have what is the biggest single station build in the UK, and the most and best connected railway station in the UK. But a bit more about the detail in this video.
In West London, a new super hub of connectivity is taking shape. High Speed 2's Old Oak Common Station is at the heart of the UK's largest regeneration project. This once industrial area is being transformed into a thriving, super connected neighbourhood, and an exciting development that will build a legacy for the local community to be enjoyed for generations to come. With its modern design, Old Oak Common offers seamless travel, making journeys in, out and around London's transport system quick, easy and convenient. A hive of activity, it will connect over 250,000 people every single day. 14 platforms will make it the largest newly built railway station in the UK and one of the best connected. London's West End is around 10 minutes away, and Liverpool Street Station is just under 20 on the Elizabeth line. Heathrow Airport is only 10 minutes away on the Heathrow Express. And beyond London, it will serve as a gateway to Wales and the South West through the Great Western Main Line services. At the heart of the station will be our high-speed trains, travelling at speeds up to 225 miles per hour. They'll transform journeys to and from the capital, with increased capacity, faster services and fewer delays. Old Oak Common Station will connect West London with the West Midlands and beyond.
So that's Old Oak Common in a bit of a nutshell. But if we dig a little bit deeper, and apologies, there was no pun intended in that. We've got our 850 metre deep box. If you take a slice through the station, sort of longitudinally, to put that in context, you'll probably know better than me on this call, but a London Underground train is circa 110 metres long. The new Elizabeth line trains are circa 200 metres long, and the trains we're going to be putting on High Speed 2 are 400 metres long. So we've got incredibly long trains that we're going to be running on the railway. So within our 850 metre long box, we've got the 400 metre platforms, and then at either end, that sits in the middle of the box, and then at either end we've got points and crossings, etc., that allow the two-track railway that runs in and out of the box to actually allow the trains to get to the 6 underground platforms that we've got for the high-speed railway. The box is sort of circa 15 meters deep and sits below Old Oak Common, and takes the trains from the tunnels from Euston, and then runs them through up towards Ruislip, and up towards the viaducts that we're building up in that direction, and obviously up through to Birmingham after that. If we take a slice through the station in the other direction, this gives you a better idea of what the station would be. So on the left, we've got the High Speed 2 station with the 6 platforms below ground, and then and that part of the station, as well as the shared accommodation building, which sits in the middle, will be operated and sort of maintained by High Speed 2. The shared accommodation building works for HS2 and both NR. All our back of house facilities are there, switch rooms, pump rooms, welfare, the station's operations room, etc., will all be in that shared accommodation building section. And then the right, although HS2 are building it and paying for it, NR will sort of maintain and be responsible for the conventional part of the station on the right, which we've got 8 platforms being built on that side. And then you'll see over the top, we've got sort of a big arch structure. That's one of the key features of the station, is that actually, a lot of us have travelled around the UK and particularly around London, and you've got a lot of often different operators, etc., going into a station. Sometimes they're not always the clearest for the customer of where they should be going. What our aim at Old Oak Common is that actually the customer experience will be seamless, no matter which part of the networks you're going on, whether that be High Speed 2, Great Western Main Line, Heathrow Express, or the Elizabeth line. your customer experience will be exactly the same. So everything should operate seamlessly with the signage, the lighting, the direction, and the operation will have a single operational room at Old Oak Common, and that will run the whole station. In terms of the conventional, you'll see that there's 8 platforms there. Next to Old Oak Common, we've got the Great Western Main Line that runs into Paddington with the trains from the southwest and from Wales, etc. Well, there's that 4-track railway that runs alongside, stays a 4-track railway, but we extend that to 8 platforms as it comes through our locality to give us the flexibility we need to operate that service, which is why we've got the 8 platforms there at the moment. Just to give a bit of scale, if you look at the front of the building here, you can see this is more akin, I would say it's more akin to an airport terminal than actually a sort of a train station as we know it, given that the size of it. But given that even with the size of it, we have managed to achieve the BREEAM outstanding level at REBA 4, which is the end of detailed design, and that's been driven by adopting innovations and low carbon options in its build, and also targeting net zero carbon for our operations phase. And if you take a walk inside the station, again, you'll see the openness of the station. We're trying to create a good atmosphere, a good offering to the customer. We're creating a net zero travel option here, and we want to attract the customers to it. We don't want their experience to be something they don't want actually to do. There's no point in putting this provision in place if we can't get the customers to come. So therefore, we want to create an offering that actually is attractive to the customer. Within this large sort of space we have now, this large atrium layout allows for natural ventilation, and with use of sensors and the natural light that's coming through, we're able to reduce the carbon impact of the station running in day-to-day use. We've also got a combination of solar panels on the roof and air source heat pumps that again provide that additional push towards creating a net zero station. If we then go sort of downstairs, for want of a better phrase, we go down to the box. This is not too dissimilar from what you'd see on a Crossrail station, except here again we're trying to keep it as open as possible. You can see in the middle at the top, you can see the roof and the lights through there. So again, the roof lights allowing the natural light right down to the bottom to again create as much ventilation and natural light through at the bottom level, again helping us with our carbon credentials, and again making it a nice place for the customer. As you'd expect, there's a lot of steel work that you can sort of see around in concrete. Again, you can see around. These are high carbon materials, but again, whilst we can't not use them, we're trying to drive down the amount we use and reduce the impact. We've used wind tunnel testing on the structure and modelling, which has allowed us to take 25% of what was in the original design of the steelwork out, and within the concrete, we're replacing some of the cement with GGBS, which is furnace slag, to allow us to reduce the cement content, again taking up to 50% of the carbon impact of the concrete we're using in the station build. If we then sort of go to the other side of the station, where we've got the conventional station, again, not too dissimilar, white columns, etc., that you have at London Bridge, not too dissimilar design from that point of view. But what we really want to draw your attention to is the is sort of the walkway along the top. Again, the size of that we're providing. If you look at again from a different angle, if some of you think of Clapham, I'm sure many of you have seen Clapham Junction Station and the amount of platforms we have there and how congested those overbridges can be. We are the opposite here now at Old Oak Common. We're trying to make it spacious, allow for the capacity of the passengers that we're going to have here, not only on day one opening, but also in 100 years' time, allowing for that capacity. So we've created again a spacious overbridge that allows that free flow of passengers, and again creating a comfortable journey through for the passengers. When I first started at Old Oak Common, I wasn't on the station. I was on the bridges, and I used to get disheartened quite a bit because we'd see all these great pictures of Old Oak Common Station, and I could show my friends, this is what I'm working on, and which bit are you on? Oh, I'm on the bridges that are just outside the bit of the photo that you can't see, but they are really important, honest. Well, in reality, they are really important. These, if you come out of the station, and I always say, come out of the station, turn left, we've got a road that goes down to the bridges, which takes the Great Western Main Line, and currently, like a lot of bridges around, it's sort of pigeon infested. It's not a great place to walk through. It can only take single decker buses. And we are creating at Old Oak Common, a massive interchange, one of the biggest interchanges in the UK. Therefore, we need more than single decker buses. So one of the things we are having to do is lower the road under the bridges. And also, because we are going from a 4-track railway and expanding out into the 8 platforms, that obviously needs slightly more width to the railway tray. So we're having to widen these bridges along a common lane to allow for that additional track space. So they're the works that are happening on the bridges. But as you know, as luck would have it, this road seems to be the West London super highway corridor for pretty much every utility that exists in London. So it's not an easy job to move the utilities out of the road to allow the lowering. And actually, whilst it might not be in all the pretty pictures around Old Oak Common, the critical path for Old Oak Common goes through our utilities diversions in this road, and actually is one of the top critical paths, or subcritical paths, should I say, for HS2 opening, is actually utilities in this road. So whilst it's not glamorous, it's probably one of the most important parts of the HS2 project at the moment. And then just from the other side again, when I talk about the pigeons, we're trying to create now an environment again that invites the customer into the station as part of the this bridge renewal. So much so that if you want a nice romantic walk out, according to the architects, we've got a nice couple there having a romantic walk on a summer's day. That's that is the sort of the change we're looking at, tongue in cheek, but it's creating a nice environment for the customer again, and more importantly, a safe environment for the customers to travel through the area. So yeah, so that's a little bit about the design of the station and some of the key features. I think the only thing I haven't mentioned on here is the public realm outside. Again, it was covered in the video, but it's 3 times the size of Trafalgar Square. So it's again a good offering for the local community that we expect the local community to use, as well as the travelling public. And then, as you probably all know from the press, we will be the temporary terminus for HS2 phase 1 until the point at which we get Euston on board. So yeah, so now we know you can see what we're building. How are we building it? This video will show you, hopefully.
At Old Oak Common in West London, construction has started on what will be the biggest newly built railway station in the UK. The construction of the station will be a feat of engineering and will be carried out in 3 main phases. In the first phase, the underground part of the station will be built, what we call the box. This is where 6 high-speed platforms will be located, serving the Midlands and the North. To build it, a 1.8-kilometre underground concrete wall will be installed around the perimeter of the underground box, and 160 steel reinforced concrete columns will be installed to help form the box and support the structure. Concrete beams will be cast on top, tying all the elements together to form a large concrete structure. This will then allow the earth inside to be removed safely. The amount of earth taken out of the box will be enough to fill nearly 300 Olympic-sized swimming pools. In the second phase, as the excavation of the underground box is taking place, work on the 8 overground platforms will begin. Over 1,600 concrete piles will be installed into the ground on which the station's superstructure and overground platforms will sit. These platforms will then allow Elizabeth Line and Great Western Main Line services to stop at the station. As the high-speed platforms and the overground platforms are being completed, the High-Speed 2 station and the surrounding urban area is built, the 3rd and final stage. The main element of the station will be its immense roof. Covering the area of over 3 football pitches, the lightweight roof structure has been designed to minimise the use of materials and allow as much natural light in, which reduces the carbon impact of the station. To further boost its environmental credentials, the roof will be covered with solar panels, generating a supply of renewable energy for the station. This curved design of the roof brings together the 3 different rail lines under one unified building, creating a common experience for the passengers, turning it into one super hub station. With over 250,000 passengers using the station every day, Old Oak Common will be the best connected and largest new build station in the UK, making it one of the country's most vital transport hubs and a catalyst for economic regeneration for the area and the rest of the UK.
Yeah, if only it was that simple as that video shows, but no, hopefully that gives a flavour of how we're building it. In terms of, I think, our 5 key challenges, as you can see from this picture, Old Common Station is bounded on two sides by railway, and then the third side is Old Common Lane. So all our material has to come in and out that one single entrance, and we're limited under the Act by how many lorries we can bring in and out every day. So logistics is a big part of our challenge. I've already mentioned number 2 around the utilities. Number 3, we have 2 TBMs being launched from the box, and we receive 3 tunnels into the box. So again, our interface between our neighbours, our HS2 neighbours, is a big part of what we're doing, and allowing them to do their work without sort of distracting from what we're doing on our site. Number 4 is Shazma will talk about later. We've got high-speed rail systems coming on board. Once they start, then that's a new interface for us to deal with and actually work with to create the railway. And 5, I think, and probably one that you'll be most interested in again today is if you look at the drawing here, you can see a red line sort of going across, sort of diagonally across. That's the boundary of our site currently, and we're building everything to the left of that at the moment. To the right, in the sort of the orange shaded area, is currently where the Great Western Main Line sits into Paddington. We have one large Christmas possession, during which we will take the track from that orange area and then feed it through the platforms, at which point we then get the orange area as open land. That allows us to then build platforms 1 and 2. We have another large Christmas possession, at which point we then go to the full 8-track railway through the station. Got sort of a fly through of what this looks like after the first possession. This is travelling inwards, coming towards London. You can see the bits in blue, the bits we're modifying, and then as we come to what is the North London line bridge, we then have the new railway that we've been built. Obviously, we'll be working in possessions in some part, and there's Christmas to do the bits that divert out, and then this section going in, it was all built in brownfield site prior to that Christmas possession. In that first Christmas possession, we leave the stuff that's in green on the right, which was the existing railway, and we'll take that out post the possession, because that becomes a brownfield site that's non-railway. And then we have, as you can see, the railway then coming through the newly built station. While still, we still have parts of the station still to continue building, but we will have a live railway running through the site at this point. And then slowly, obviously, the tracks then come back and take up work towards the alignment of the existing railway by the time we hit the bridge structure that's coming up. Obviously, we're restricted by that existing structure, and then we'll be back onto the original alignment back into Paddington. We can see from all the red that is there, that's a lot of infrastructure that we're going to have to install before that first Christmas possession, before we even start thinking about the second possession and what we do in that. And then just some quick wins we've had recently. We've completed the excavation of all the box in the summer, so that was a massive milestone for Old Common. We've started building the conventional platforms. They're the first platforms being built on HS2 anywhere, so that was again a good milestone for us. We had a conveyor system that took out the muck from the box. You can see in the bottom left, that's the part of the conveyor that went over Old Common Lane being removed, and piling has started for the bridge extensions that we're going to be undertaking. And then, so I think the final one from me is, I think, highlighting just some of the green stuff we've done as well, which I think is really important. As a large project, HS2 we're able to drive moving the industry into sort of more green methods of doing things. A lot of their you might be aware of, but the electric cranes in the top right, we had 2 of the 5 in the world on our site at one point. Again, a great move forward in the industry there. And where we can't move to non-diesel activities, we've got this punch flybridge should I say, box. We're using that with one of our tower cranes that we can provide electric power to, and that we call it our Formula 1 tower crane, because it's essentially a curved system that Formula 1 use. It's just using that in a different form that gives us additional power, which reduces the amount of diesel that we're using, or electric diesel we're using for that crane. Yes, but some good strides forward, which I'm sort of proud of the stuff we're doing at Old Common. And then next 6 to 12 months, more of the same. We're been doing we're going to be doing the construction of back of house and platforms and stuff are starting in the box now. Euston Tunnels, now we've had the budget last week. That will be starting in 2025, I believe, off the top of my head. And then conventional stations, as I said, will continue doing those platforms, and utilities works ongoing. And that is a bit of a whistle-stop tour through Old Oak Common, and I'll hand over to Louis, who will talk us through about interchange in the APM.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Jonathan, and thank you everyone for having me. So I'm Louis Brazenell. I'm one of the project managers specifically on the automated people mover, but was a year ago working on interchange since April 22. So just to manage expectations, bit of a spoiler, we're not in construction, so I don't have all the flashy videos that Jonathan has, so you'll have to put it with me and images. So Jonathan, next slide please, mate. So why interchange? You know, we've got Euston in the middle of London, Birmingham, Curzon Street in the middle of Birmingham, Old Oak on old rail depots. Why interchange? So interchange was chosen because it's a hub of industry within the West Midlands. It's just east of Birmingham. If people know where Solihull is, it's around the Solihull area. It's what we affectionately call the triangle site. You can just on the right hand side see the little HS2 symbol within the Arden Cross site. And the reason it's called the triangle site is because it's bounded by the M42, the A45 and the A52. And the idea is to stimulate further growth within this area. You've got the NEC, the National Exhibition Station, to the west, which, if you're not aware, it's just a big venue that holds concerts. Crufts is held there, motorhome shows. We have Business Birmingham Park, which you can see, Birmingham Airport, and Jaguar Land Rover. So all of that is to stimulate a hub of growth. I'll go over the APM, the automated people mover, in a little bit, but this project will connect parts of those areas of industry to High Speed 2. Next slide, please. So interchange station, it isn't as complex as the other stations. We're on a greenfield site, but where our complexity lies is the time constraints, because we haven't started construction yet. All the other stations have started, and we are the only greenfield station. So whereas Old Oak Commons is being badged as the largest regeneration project, we are the largest development project, because we've got so much greenfield space that developers are chomping at the bit to try and get hold of and acquire and build around us. So interchange station itself, it's a surface level station. It has 2 island platforms, so four platforms that will serve customers, with 6 lines, 4 stopping and 2 through lines, because some of the trains originally would have carried on straight up to phase 2, and some will miss out interchange and go straight into Curzon Street. It comprises of 2 layers. So you have the station concourse layer on the top level, which is public facing, and underneath we have the podium level, which houses all of our back of house rooms. At our Reba 3 design, unlike Old Oak Common, which is at Reba 4, we achieved our BREEAM outstanding certification as well for sustainable buildings, and we did beat Old Oak Common, so we were the first railway station to get the outstanding, because I think they achieved it in the detailed design and we got it in the scheme design. So we just have to maintain that when we move on to our detailed design. And I've got some images on the right, but I'll go through them in a future slides. So John, if next slide, please, mate. Another key feature for the interchange station is the multimodal transport at interchange. So we think it's going to be one of the best connected places in the UK. We obviously have the local road networks. I mentioned the 2A roads earlier. We've also adjacent to the M42. Through the automated people mover, which I'll cover in a little bit, we will have direct connections into the NEC, Birmingham Airport, and the Birmingham International Station. So the conventional rail line. We also have obviously links with just general public transport, your buses and taxis. We have active travel throughout the route, throughout the site. So both cycling and walking, connecting into existing walking and cycleways. And we also, which isn't shown here, but I believe there will be plans at a much later date to also connect this into the Midlands metro link, but that's probably much further down the line after High Speed 2's open. Next slide, please, John. And then, so this is a bit of an overview. So we're situated on a 140 hectare site. We initially had 7,500 car parking spaces. These have been reduced to 4,500. Our current work and what we've been doing is in that reduction of from 7,500 to 4,500. We had a couple of schemes. We had both the surface level car park scheme, which is what we've opted for and what you can see now, and we also did look at a multi-story car park scheme. The reason we went with the surface level in the end, we do have some complexities with our site. There are 2 landfills on the site, and where the multi-story, that was in car park A, which is on the screen now. And the reason we opted to move away from a multi-story car park is the amount of remediation and the depth of the piles that would be needed to support this multi-story car park on car park A because of the existing landfill and quarry that's also there. The costs were too high. So we've opted for a surface level car park scheme, but have worked with local future developers, I should say, to ensure that we are giving as much back to local businesses and landowners for future development. I won't go through the whole slide, but you can see there's features with elements of greenery, suds, making sure we have accessible parking, drop and goes, coach and bus parks as well, and you can kind of see there's a few bike images on there as well, which are the current stop and starts for existing active travel cycle routes through this area, and so that would be connected through this scheme. Next slide, please. So where are we at the moment? So Arup, who is our SDSC, and that stands, I can't remember what it stands for now. It's a station design services contractor, SDSC. Was selected in 2018 to do our scheme design. So that's been gone and that's been completed. And our contractual model is we have opted for a 2-stage approach, which is stage 1 is an NEC-free engineering civils contract, option A, so fixed cost, and that's with our contractor Langer Rourke. And the aim of this is to refine the design. So Langer Rourke refined the design from the 7,500 to the 4,500, and to ultimately provide us a target price and program, which will then be used to deliver stage 2, which stage 2 is your typical design and build, which will be delivered under a target price contract with an activity schedule. So Langer Rourke were awarded the stage 1 contract in June or July 2022. And ACOM is their subconsultant who have been providing their design. As of, it says September 24, but I can confirm as of November 24, we're still in stage 1 and we are finalising those final price and programme with Langer Rourke, with the aim to get into our stage 2 contract by the end of 2025. Next slide, please. So the key challenges for us, I said it at the beginning, we're arguably the simplest station out of the 4 construction wise, and that's emphasized on the fact that we are trying to focus on prefab a lot, building off site and importing it to site and fixing it together like a big Lego set. So our key challenges really are, whilst we don't have the physical constraints that say Old Oak Common, Kers and Euston do, we have heavy political and stakeholder interest because the developers are keen to get hold of this land. I've kind of put two photos on the right, and I've orientated the top one so it's the right, so you can compare between the two. So it might look a bit weird because it's not north-south, but we're a greenfield site. You can just see in the middle a bit of dirt, which is where BBV, our main work civils contractor, are doing their trace works and putting in a bridge for us. And on the bottom, which I know you might not be able to see as clearly on your screens, but you can see what the master plan for the area is. So I think I've got some stats later, but I think it's something like 3,500 homes, which I'll confirm in the next slide. Some hospitals, some educational areas. So there's a lot of interest and there's a lot of pressure to get this done, and we're not in construction yet. So due to the second bullet point, due to being the last station awarded, we've got such a high focus on lessons learned and efficiencies. I've just completed a 6-month secondment down at Old Oak Common, which was the intention to obviously develop me personally, but also to basically pinch good ideas, bring them back up to interchange and try and implement them. So we've got a lot of focus on that. And also, this is a crucial location for the high-speed rail systems track. Because I don't know if Shazma goes into it in her section, but because there's only a few locations in which the track will be loaded onto the HS2 route, we need to finish the interchange section to carry on building the track north. Next slide, please, John. So interchange itself, it's what we've deemed as Europe's best connected destination for business, leisure, and living. The reason for that is obviously the connections into the NEC, the airport. Sorry, I was wrong. I said 3,500. I was wrong. It was 5,000 new homes within this area, up to 70,000 new jobs. Obviously 650,000 meters squared of commercial space, and bringing 1.3 million people within 45 commute of a public transport. And then I've got one more slide on kind of the benefits, John. Thank you. So this is not just interchange station. This is the benefit of HS2 in the West Midlands. We've jumped up now to like 41,000 additional homes. 700,000 square meters of floor space, 30,000 new jobs, and on the right you can kind of see the stats around regeneration and investment within the West Midlands because of HS2. And then I've got a couple of slides now just on, I suppose, the visuals, which I was going to mention. So this is interchange station. It's the roof. We're focusing on natural light, ventilation. The architecture is kind of meant to represent those petals, just try and let in natural light. We have solar panels which has obviously helped us maintain our BREEAM outstanding. You can see there on the screen in the bottom right the APM station, the automated people mover station. And obviously you can see elements of the car parking and a real focus. Hopefully you can pick out the greenery that we're trying to maintain throughout the scheme. Next slide, please. We've then got the front of the station, and we've got what is for us our iconic three prominent fingers of a station to create that sense of grandeur. Next slide, please, John. And then we just got a couple of images from the inside, and it's got more of these earthy natural tones. We've opted for a glulam structure on the interior, which has presented its own challenges to ensure that it's compliant with fire regulations. So a lot of work has gone into our fire safety for interchange station. And the next slide, please. This is mainly, if you look on the right hand side, is the integration to other businesses. You can see there that we've got the check-in to Birmingham Airport. Obviously they don't take your luggage, but it's where you can go in and check in to your flights and see the timetables to Birmingham Airport. If you could move on to the next, please, John. So that was interchange station. Now I'm going to quickly talk about the APM as well. So the APM is a mass transit system that plans to connect interchange station to the NEC, to Birmingham International Railway Station, and then into Birmingham Airport itself. We have to cross a number of assets, which actually I'll cover on it in a second. And it's meant to have 5 trains with 3 cars each, 4 on the network serving at one time, with 1 in the maintenance facilities. We are transporting 2,100 people per hour per direction. So actually, I've had to put some fun facts together. And we've got about 20 hours of operation, which leaves our maximum capacity capacity at transporting 84,000 people a day, which is nearly fills Wembley. So we are transporting at maximum capacity Wembley amounts of people per day on the APM. It's yes, some more stats on the screen. The maximum journey time duration is 6 minutes between Birmingham International Interchange, and there'll be a 3-minute headway between vehicles. In essence, one of the business cases for this is you could land a plane in Birmingham International Airport, and ignoring luggage and picking up your luggage, you can be in central London within an hour. Next slide, please, Jonathan. So I've got a couple of slides here just to kind of show you the route, which I've already mentioned. Obviously, you can see right in the middle of the screen, interchange station. There originally were 4 routes considered, and a lot of work with our stakeholders. Again, that is our key interface, our key complexity with this program. We've done a lot of work to get at the best possible route and keep stakeholders happy. But you can see there, we've obviously got the maintenance facility, the NEC, Birmingham International, and then into the airport. And then if you jump to the next slide, John, I've kind of done some exploded kind of images just to give you a flavour of what the structures will look like. So if you start off at in the right hand side from interchange station, you can kind of see a bit of an explosion of the exploded view of what the stop were like. The moving left, moving west, you can see the maintenance facility. We cross the M42, which obviously has its own challenges. Across active car parks, so all of these businesses will remain operational while we're constructing it. So we have to manage between airports' busy times. You know, at a high level, we're not allowed to work near the airports near Christmas and Easter. Near the NEC, we're not allowed to work over summer because that's their business, their busiest times. So we cross through these NEC car parks across Pendigo Lake. So we have to work in and around water, over the top of the NEC itself, across the West Coast Main Line, across the airport's car parks, and then connect into the airport itself, which then you can see some of the images there. If you go to the next, please, John. The benefits. So again, I've kind of repeated some of it. I won't repeat all of them, but you know, it's to provide that connection that when you land in Birmingham Airport, you're just as well connected, really, to London as your Heathrow, Gatwick, Luton, Stansted. If not compared to some of the latter ones I've mentioned, potentially even better. You know, from Curzon Street to Euston, it's a 49 train minute journey from Birmingham to central London. So obviously it's shorter from interchange. So it puts that Solihull area in essentially the commuter belt for London. If you jump to the next, please, Jonathan. Yeah, again, so again, stakeholders are our challenge. So Birmingham Airport, obviously it says there that, you know, it's to expand to 80 million passengers a year and increase their workforce by 6,700. Currently, last year, 2023, the Birmingham Airport provided services to 11.5 million passengers. So you can see there our APM is part of their business case to expand up to 18 million. The NEC is looking to redevelop lands and create new homes. And SMBC Solihull Metropolitan Borough Council are looking to create a whole new borough, which was the master plan that I showed you before. Next, please, John. You know what, and actually skip past it. So I've kind of talked about route as well. Thank you. So again, I'm just reiterating the point. You know, for us, it's our stakeholders which are complex. I've mentioned that we cross the motorway, the West Coast Main Line. We connect into the airport, and we have to be cognizant of the airport's operations. We have the NEC, which have events on. We have to manage. And we also have a lot of utilities. which we have to divert ahead of our infrastructure contract. And final slide, please, for me, John. You know, the one thing actually which I haven't mentioned, which is our key challenge as well as stakeholders, is the rest of HS2 is pretty much built in the trace. Our enabling works contractors have come on board along with our main works civils contractors and sterilised an area of land in which we're going to be working across, and that isn't the case for the APM, and is one of the only locations in HS2 where our structures significantly divert across away from a trace. And we've had to do a lot of work to get third-party agreements, land agreements, to ensure that when our infrastructure contract is launched in a few years' time, whilst the infrastructure contract isn't too complex, you know, it's piers and viaducts and piles, it's getting across these live businesses and national infrastructure, you know, the railway and the M42 that we have to work around. So there's a lot of upfront work for what should hopefully be a smoothish, fingers crossed, delivery. So on that's the interchange and APM. Oh, sorry, I've got these slides as well. Sorry, yeah. So just some visuals as well. You know, I'll whiz through these. So again, this is just the APM over Pendigo Lake. You can jump to the next, John. Our station at the NEC. Our station at the airport. So you can see here, it isn't directly connected into the airport, but there will be, not shown on here, there is a covered walkway connecting that stop to the airport itself. Next one, please, John. I think we're nearly there. The interchange stop. And I think the last one is the maintenance facility. Yeah, and then the maintenance facility. Shazma, over to you.
Sorry, I lost the mute button. Thank you, Louis. Good evening, everybody. My name's Shazma Mahmood-Shakoor, and I'm lead project engineer. I moved into the rail systems team around 9 months ago, and prior to that, I've been working on HS2 on the on-network works part of the program, which is where we're connecting into Network Rail's infrastructure. So I'm fairly new to the team. But in terms of the work that we're doing at the moment, we haven't awarded contracts yet. So everything you've seen up until now, we started with the best, with Jonathan's videos, fly-through video slides, etc. And then you had some really good stuff from Louis. But don't expect anything like that from me, because we don't have our contractors on board yet. Can I have the next slide, please, Jonathan?
Yeah, it's correct. There you go.
Brilliant, thank you. So this is just an overview of the rail systems contracts that we have. There's 16 separate contracts that are split across 7 categories. And as you can see, the majority of the disciplines within rail systems all have one contract apart from track. Track has 3 contracts that are split geographically. And then we also have some supply contracts, 3 of which are for track and 1 which is for cross-passage doors, but I'll cover that in a little bit more detail going forward. If you could move to the next slide, please. This is just to show you the key interfaces that exist. So as has already been described, as you can see the boxes at the top, the green ones, stations that we've been covering already this evening, they are one of our key interfaces. We have the 4 main work civils contractors as well. We have Euston, which is a separate project within itself. We have On Network Works, which I just mentioned, which is the tie-in to Network Rail infrastructure. We have utilities. And then this big blue box in the middle is the High Speed Rail Systems Alliance. The High Speed Rail Systems Alliance is basically made up of HS2 and all of our rail systems contractors, which are these pink boxes that you can see just underneath HS2. So HS2 and the rail systems contractors are members of the organisation that form the Rail Systems Alliance. and I'll call it RSA for short because it's a mouthful. The RSA has been formed to help the rail systems contractors so they can work together in an integrated manner and effectively deliver the rail systems programme. The RSA in effect acts as a managing agent for HS2, and its key role is to integrate and coordinate the plans of each partner whilst they achieve the best programme outcomes. And what they're specifically responsible for is integration, but in terms of systems, design, construction, and programme integration. The key role for the RSA is for them to identify conflicts and gaps and resolve and fill these within the specifications and architecture that's been set by HS2. So just moving to the boxes underneath, sorry. So we've got that green box with rolling stock on the bottom left. CPD is one of the supply contracts, which is platform doors. Washwood Heath Depot is a contract within itself. We've got third-party comms, and then we have those three supply contracts for track, which is rail, S&C, and slab track. Can you move to the next slide, please? So an overview of the track contracts. We have our Tier 1 design and build contractors who will be coming in on NEC3 option C target cost with an activity schedule. We've split the route geographically into track urban, track open route central, and track open route north for phase 1. Can we move to the next slide, please? So this is the geographic split of the route of phase 1. Starting at the bottom right, we have London Euston. From there up to the north portal of the Chiltern Tunnel, we have the urban contract. And then from that north portal of the Chiltern Tunnel to the south portal of Long Itchington Wood Tunnel, we have our central contract, and we have our IMD for Calvert, our maintenance depot, in there as well. And then from Long Itchington Wood and including it all the way to Birmingham Curzon Street, including Birmingham Interchange Station, and Washwood Heath Depot, which is our rolling stock depot. And then a spur that goes off up to the West Coast Main Line via Hansacre is our north contract. Next slide, please. So this is just a very quick, brief summary of the track contractor scope. I'm not going to read it all, but if you can have a look just to see that the key things are they're designing, procuring, installing, and testing and commissioning all of the items that are listed. So the track system, S&C, rail expansion devices, buffer stop, surface drainage, that depot I just spoke about, the infrastructure maintenance depot. There are additional duties as well that the track contractors will hold. One of them is that they'll be the principal contractor for the site and working areas, including railhead coordination. They'll also be the lead contractor for traffic and transport, community engagement, environment sustainability, and consent management, and of course survey. And one final duty they have is for responsibility for the works, trains, and offices for other railway systems contractors. Next slide, please. This is just a schematic to give you an idea of the guiding principles that we're using for construction. So the idea is that we build from railheads and rail connections, and Jonathan, sorry, it wasn't Jonathan, it was Louis that mentioned this earlier about the importance of having, I think it was a station in place so we can have the rail connections to be able to deliver materials and build from the railheads. And the idea is to go in both directions so that we have a flow of resources and we're able to storage materials on the route. In addition, sections of the trace will be handed from main work civils to rail systems. I think it's 25 to 30 metre sections to allow construction to happen in bigger phases. And we'll be building heavy systems first and then come on with light systems. So it won't be the traditional, everybody floods the site from all disciplines and you build. It'll be more of a sort of a controlled sequence of works. Next slide, please. Going back to that slide I was talking about earlier, moving on to the Tier 2 supply contracts. I've already mentioned these briefly, but we have a supply contract for precast slab track. We have one for switches and crossings and rail expansion devices, and we have one for supply of long welded rail. Next slide, please. So this is some of the slab track componentry that we have. The idea of the contract is that it's a design and supply of precast slab track system. So to begin, so POR is the company that has been awarded this contract. They are working under a HS2 framework contract, which includes a systems design, and they're also supporting us via installation and maintenance manuals, and also providing information on how the system will actually work. Later on, they'll work with the design and build track contractors on a call-off supply contract basis. So they'll be assisting them with detailed design, manufacture of the system, and training in the installation. This is a standard slab section, and this will only be used in our open route sections where we have structures and earthworks. It'll exclude areas where we have switches and crossings, rail expansion devices, and bored tunnels. These, due to the complexity of these, they're subject to agreement with the incoming track contractor on how those will be built. And it's going to be more than likely that we'll have cast in situ arrangement for those. Can you move on to the next slide, please? This is just a typical cross section of canted slab track on earthworks. I don't know if it's big enough that you can see, but where the main works civils will leave their second stage concrete, our track contractors will come in and put in a slab of some sort, depending on what's going on top of it. So it could be a hydraulically bound layer, it could be a concrete bearing layer, or it might just be an infill layer. And then above that, the slab will be installed in the exact location it needs to go, and then grout will be injected. So it's self-compacting concrete, I believe, that'll be injected in between to fill the void. Next slide, please. This is the second supply contract, which is for switches and crossings and rail expansion devices. So we're going to have swing nose crossings for the high speed S&C. There's an illustration in the middle just to show you the components of that. And it'll be a design and supply of S&C and rail expansion devices for structures. And this is going to be only the ironwork. As I mentioned earlier, the track contractors will be installing what goes underneath the ironwork, the slab underneath. VATT, is VATT for Stalpine, who will be supplying us with the S&C, and also they'll be supplying us with some asset condition monitoring and point operating equipment as well. So at the minute they're working under a HS2 framework contract, which includes standard design, installations and O&M manuals, and then they'll later work with our design and build track contractors under a call-off supply contract. Again, they'll assist with detailed location-specific designs. They'll help with the manufacture of the S&C, factory acceptance testing, and they'll help transport the ironwork to the railheads and provide installation support services for mainline scope. Depots are optional, but they're not included at the minute. They will also provide installation training and auditing for the S&C ironwork, including installation and testing of the point operating equipment and the asset condition monitoring equipment. And finally, they will have a technical support contract with HS2 and the infrastructure manager, and that's a long-term operational technical support and spares contract. Move on to the next slide, please. So for the main line, we're going to have the Echo Star point machine. We'll have multiple point operating equipment Echo Star motors at the switch and crossing panel, and there'll be multiple end position detectors as well associated with point motors. We'll have the HRS locking device at the switches and crossings as well. This has been adapted for high dynamic forces, and it secures the locking switch in horizontal and vertical directions, and we'll have a holding down device at the swing nose crossing. Can move on to the next slide, please. We have a slightly different situation for depots, where we're using rigid single crossing, which will be a semi-welded design, and we'll have non-elastic base plates. And the point operating machine that we'll have there is the Unistar, which will serve to provide the drive, lock and detection for the turnouts. Can you move to the next slide, please? So our rail expansion devices for the high-speed section will be a movable stock rail with a fixed switch rail, which will allow longitudinal relative movement of the two adjacent rails, and it'll maintain correct guidance and support. And in terms of the expansion capacity for these, we have 3 to choose from. So you can see them on the middle left of the slide, what they are. And I think there's going to be some additional intermediate supports for the ± 300 mil and the ± 600 mil. We'll move to the next slide, please. This is a busy slide. There's a lot of information on it. But all I'm really going to say for this one is that we're going to provide long welded rail, and it'll be free issue from HS2 to the track contractors. And for anyone that's interested, that's a SEN 60 specification in 260-meter lengths. Move to the next slide, please. And just to add that the rails will be procured and delivered to the nodal points, as I said earlier, in terms of the rail heads and for installation by track contractors. So just some stats, some quantities for you. For the first 3 boxes detail the slab track quantities across the various civils assets that we'll be installing for open route, bored tunnels and cut and cover tunnels. And then we have 148 units of switches and crossings and 52 units of rail expansion devices going in for phase 1. Next slide, please. I just thought I'd also talk about our 2 depots, just to provide you a little bit of information on those. So we have Calvert Infrastructure Maintenance Depot, which I mentioned a little bit earlier on. Calvert is situated approximately halfway along the route. So it's around 80 kilometres from Euston and 96 kilometres from Curzon Street. It's located on land adjacent to the HS2 route, northeast of the East West Rail Bicester to Bletchley line. And the primary purpose of this depot is to store, configure and manage our on-track machines or on-track maintenance machines. This depot is going to start life as a railhead, and it'll be the main feed for getting materials onto the trace to enable the rail systems contractors to construct the railway. We'll have storage points for materials for construction of the rail systems along the trace, and there's going to be a mixture of temporary and permanent buildings in this depot. And it will also include OTM workshops, storage facilities, and a training compound. There's going to be up to 180 staff on site in any one day during the day, and an additional 110 staff working night shifts. And the depot will operate 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Just an interesting fact for you. Making the decision to go for slab track on HS2 was a key enabler to help us reduce the Calvert depot footprint by 30%, as we didn't need increased material storage for renewal campaigns, and also it would remove the storage capacity for the added plant and equipment that would be needed to maintain a ballasted railway. Can we move on to the next slide, please? This is Washwood Heath Depot and our network integration control centre. So we've got the depot bottom right, and bottom left is the NICC. There's going to be 14 stabling roads and 6 buildings to facilitate the maintenance of the rolling stock here. And we've targeted with achieving BREEAM excellence for this site as well, and net zero carbon ratings. It will operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it will provide a huge regeneration opportunity for East Birmingham. The NICC, Network Integrated Control Centre, is a standalone facility, but it will be based on the Washwood Heath Depot site. It will have responsibility for coordinating and controlling the delivery of the train service across all aspects of the network, and it'll be heavily secured in our operational infrastructure. It's designed, the building's been designed to prevent and minimise the impact of terrorist attack, fire, flooding and freak weather events so that we can keep the network running. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. One of our key challenges is because we're coming in different phases, making sure that everybody comes along and builds their bit in the right place to connect with the bit that's just been built. So survey grid for us and a survey control network is really important. So we are all working in a HS2 snake grid, which has been created specifically to allow everybody to be able to work in that grid. And it's the seamless, continuous, distortion-free coordinated space without zones or overlaps. Can move on to the next slide. As I just mentioned, we have a survey control network as well, which is it's a hierarchical network, and we have stable monuments out on the ground. And it's to allow us to be able to build precisely and accurately, as I've just mentioned, to be able to connect everything together. So all contracts, all contractors are given the survey control network and expected to work within it. Next slide, please. And finally, where do I come into this? I'm a lead project engineer. So there are several lead project engineers across rail systems for all different disciplines. I'm track and I report to the head of engineering for track. I work alongside the NEC project manager and provide technical support and guidance to help administer the contract. I'm also involved in leading the acceptance of all the documentation that comes over from the contractors in terms of design submissions and all their engineering management plans, design management plans, and that kind of thing. I will act as the NEC supervisor once we're out on site to ensure that they're building the works to the required quality. Technical assurance is another one of my key roles where I'm involved in coordinating the flow of this from contract level up to systems level and all the way up the business so that we can get authorization of the railway. We have subject matter experts throughout all of our disciplines, and we as LPs act as the sort of the facing person to the contractor and then dealing with the SME to get clarification on departures to standards, audits, design queries and that kind of thing. Also responsible for ensuring contractors are compliant with our works information, which provides all of our requirements, environmental assurance, etc. Again, this is to help with authorization of the railway. There are several tools that we use to ensure that the contractors integrate their designs with each other. So responsible for ensuring that they are doing that and they're talking to each other if there's any issues to help get involved and resolve those. Produce a monthly progress report. Not doing that yet because we're not in contract yet, but for the management board review. And last but not least, and quite important, responsible for assisting the head of engineering for each discipline with the delegated CDM principal designer duties that come down from our chief engineer. Next slide, please. And that is just a view of what we hope it'll look like when it's finished. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shazma. So there's a couple of questions on the chat which I'll read out now, but if someone wants to kind of raise a hand, please do. First of all, thank you for the presentation. There's a couple of questions that haven't been answered. Rail expansion joints, are they a proven design product? I think you're mute, Shazma.
Sorry, it's a good question. I'll have to take that one away and come back to you.
No. All right. And the other one is how the 216-meter rail will be delivered to site without an existing operational railway.
The slide that I was talking about with respect to the rail connections and rail heads, we're going to be using Network Rail infrastructure to help us to deliver our materials by rail, get them into our rail heads, and then build from there.
Okay, thank you. There's an interesting question for Jonathan regarding the thoroughfares. Yeah. Well, probably using AI. It's talking about kind of all of common station and the plan and how you manage the spread for disproportional collapse of the glazing of the roof measurement.
I think we have designed for the blast, but actually our cladding glazing at the moment is going through testing to make sure it meets the requirements of our blast security requirements, etc., as well as all the other things you'd expect around a station in terms of stop vehicles, hitting the station and all that kind of stuff. Was looking for. There's a word on when it's gone out of my head. But yeah, in terms of terrorist attack by vehicle, etc., all those type of things have all been put around the station as well. So yeah, we have managed as much as required by the standards, etc., applied for things such as to do with threats to the building and the railway.
Okay. Yeah, all the stations have. Is it TVRAs, Jonathan? Threat vulnerability risk assessments, and yeah, blasting is a big one for us. We have security specialists who deal specifically in like blast.
Interesting. Haven't thought of that one, to be honest. And there's another one. One for Sasma. Has there been any incentives for the ARS contractors? The alliance, I think it means Rail Systems Alliance. Sorry, you mean.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry. Is that what you mean? Are you talking about the alliance?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yes, so because of the nature of the contract and the way the contract's set up, there are incentives, and that's why the alliance was set up there's a pain and gain element to the contract. So it's in everyone's interest to work collaboratively within that alliance, because if they don't, everybody's going to suffer. Does that answer your question, Paul? Is that what you're asking?
Well, it's one of my colleagues, actually, but
okay.
Yes, that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's another couple of questions. One, whether the route towards High Wycombe will be reinstated, and whether there are any provisions being made in case there's an extension of the route kind of northwards or eastwards.
So in terms of the route to High Wycombe, I'm presuming they're meaning sort of what we refer to as the Wycombe single that used to run into sort of the Old Common area. We've added, our bridges are actually wider than they need to be over Old Common Lane, to have allowed for passive provision in there for tracks to run into Old Common. So there's an area next to Old Common Station, which is where we have our sort of site cabins, offices, etc. When we finish building the station, that goes and that area gets sold off for adjacent site development. But within that, we are safeguarding the footprint for 2 platforms for the Chiltern Railway to come in, and we're building the bridges such that they can take that railway in the future. The DFT, I don't believe, currently has funding to put that link back in, but we are putting passive provision in to make sure that should that be something they want in the future, they can do that with the minimum sort of impact at the Old Common end of that link.
I think the only thing I'd add as well onto what Jonathan said there is obviously all the stations and main line was designed with obviously phase 2 and B in mind. Obviously phase 2B and 2A and B have been descoped, but there hasn't been a reduction in any of the stations or the main line itself. So in theory, you could say that obviously it's all has capacity to ramp back up in the future if that's what the government decided to do.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, we've had the cancellation of the northern legs of HS2. The trains will still be going to those places from Euston, etc., but they'll be running on the existing network rail infrastructure. So we still expect those passengers and etc. to come via the HS2 routes in the future. I think someone had their hand up.
Yeah, Sam.
Oh yeah, sorry, I couldn't add it to the chat. I was going to ask about considerations for SUDs along the route, given that I presume a lot of it will have been the new railway is being built on greenfield land.
Question?
It's where you see the three of us looking at each other because none of us cover the bits along the route. But if I take Old Common for an example, if I take Old Common as an example, we are installing attenuation, green spaces, etc., to make sure we're not increasing the flow of surface water into the local drainage, etc., and surcharging that. I would expect that along the route we are doing similar things. And including measures to make sure, that sustainable drainage is in place along the route. What those solutions are, I don't know because I'm not in those areas, but I would expect that would be the case.
Yeah, I think we've obviously got HS2 standards, and I think the best practice of those standards is SUDs for sustainable drainage.
Yeah, because in theory, if you didn't have slab track, you wouldn't need it in the same way because you're not making the land impermeable. But that's all part of the cool. Thanks for the answer.
All right, thank you, Fiona. Are you still there? I think we're kind of whatever do you. So
I am.
We'll say Fiona will say a few words, and then we'll wrap it up. What do you?
Yes, well, I'm not really quite sure which words I can left really, because our speakers have been so comprehensive this evening. But I want to thank them again for agreeing to do this over online, which probably seems very quaint now that people are mostly back in offices. So yes, I'm not. Yeah. An amazing talk, lots of detail. Thank you so much, and Shazma, I hope we haven't made you too late. Unless Shazma's disappeared.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
But yeah, what a perfect. Well, for me, a perfect end to National Engineering Day. I actually was privileged enough to go and visit HS2 to see some of the earthworks a little while ago with the Geotechnical Asset Owners Forum. So, that was very impressive. I wasn't close enough to see the track, but that wasn't what I was interested in at the time. But so yes, it looks most promising, and I'm so glad you could talk to us about it this evening.
Oh, thank you, Fiona. Yeah, thank you very much, Shazma, Jonathan, Luis. Thank you very much for the presentation. Really good. I just want kind of to thank you on behalf of everybody. Give you a big round of applause, even if it's online. And all I would like to add is that next section meeting will be on the 11th of December, and hopefully